Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. It is the dawn of a new day at our new studio, which we're super excited about. I want to thank the entire staff of Rising and At the Hill for working round the clock to get this place ready. But it's pretty nice, is it not, Niall, Stanage?
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be in these salubrious new surroundings. It
Yes.
looks great. I like our backdrop. I like our lights, and we're very excited about this.
Yeah, we're still working out some kinks, obviously, so please bear with us. And of course, let us know what you think about the studio in the comments. I'm sure we'll be updating some things as we proceed, but we've got a really great show for you today, and I'm excited to get to it because we have some big news breaking, obviously, over the weekend that we want to talk about here. Now, it's been a little more than 2 months since former President Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now the FBI is investigating what appears to be a second assassination attempt at his Florida golf club on Sunday. The Secret Service spotted a rifle barrel poking out of a fence, and agents fired at a man hiding in the bushes along the perimeter of the Trump International Golf Club. The suspect is Wesley Routh. He fled in a car and was detained after being stopped on the highway sometime later. Now, the suspect's ex-posts in the past showed a tendency for violent rhetoric in the weeks after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Routh posted on then what was called Twitter, "I am willing to fly to Krakow and go to the border of Ukraine to volunteer and fight and die." The Trump campaign communications director said in a statement, President Trump is safe following gunshots in his vicinity. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said a witness told them they saw a guy run out of the bushes and jump into a black Nissan.
Now, Donald Trump was playing golf at the time, 300 to 500 yards away from the suspect. Law enforcement say they found an AK-47 style rifle, a GoPro camera, and backpacks where Routh was positioned. Donald Trump thanked Secret Service on Truth Social. Quote, "I would like to thank everyone for your concern and well wishes. It was certainly an interesting day. I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, and his Office of Brave and Dedicated Patriots, and all of law enforcement for the incredible job done today at Trump International in keeping me as the 45th President of the United States and the Republican nominee in the upcoming presidential election safe." Routh has a criminal record dating back to at least 2002, when he was convicted in Guilford County, North Carolina, on one felony count of possession of a weapon of mass destruction, according to state court records. But Secret Service is under scrutiny again.
Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery, so when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right, and at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. Well, because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Now, Routh is in court today.
So let's start with that reaction there from the sheriff explaining Secret Service did everything right, and this is why the perimeter isn't as exhaustively patrolled as you might expect. I think that's going to come as cold comfort to a lot of people after what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Obviously, the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, resigned in the wake of that. Some really appalling security failures with the shooter there taking a shot at Trump, hitting him, killing someone in the crowd from a rooftop that most people think ought to have been secured. I mean, why is that outside the perimeter if you can hit Trump from that distance? Those are questions members of Congress on both sides asked at the hearing. Now, in this case, I get that it's, there's ample places, I guess, to hide on a golf course. But the idea that, well, he's not the sitting president, so he has slightly less security. I mean, he's running for the presidency. He's a very in the public eye sort of person. There's a lot of crazy people out there. He's a high risk target, a person of significant public interest. The idea that he doesn't have maybe enough security because he's not the sitting president sounds like a ludicrous excuse to me.
So I think there are two parts to this, right? One is the actual agents on the ground clearly did a better job this time around. Sure. As far as we know, an agent spotted the barrel of a rifle poking through the undergrowth. That agent seems to have taken immediate action. This was happening on a golf course, I believe around 1 or 2 holes away from where former President Trump was actually golfing. So well done in that sense for the Secret Service being diligent and being observant. The problem... They
didn't wait for him to shoot. The shots came from the Secret Service.
Right, exactly.
Glad to hear that, finally.
Now, in Butler, I mean, there are all sorts of failures, and you've outlined them there, including just the simple fact that in Butler, the guy was able to get onto a rooftop with a line of sight to an open-air rally. That's insane stuff. Now, there is a separate question, I agree, about the broad protection for Trump. As a former president and someone with a 50-50 shot of becoming the next president. It is interesting to me, Robby, that I was looking this up, and the actual number of people in the Secret Service dedicated to protective duties has declined even as the Secret Service's budget has increased. That seems an incongruity for a start, and clearly if you have 2 assassination attempts against the same person within 9 weeks of each other, that obviously begs pretty serious questions.
He's faced more assassination attempts than Kamala Harris has done sit-down interviews since becoming the candidate. Let's talk a little bit about the shooter himself. So this happens to be a person, alleged shooter. Ryan Wesley Routh has a significant social media presence, actually has been someone of a political and activist nature, someone who was involved, who has been interviewed by the media. There was write-ups about him or that he contributed to in New York Times and Semaphore for trying to drum up support for the Ukraine war. He was actually involved in trying to get volunteers, U.S. trained soldiers in Afghanistan to come volunteer with Ukraine. So his political trajectory is pretty clearly fleshed out from his presence, that he was formerly a Trump supporter, at least a Republican, but is now very much a kind of never Trump person and was in support of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You know, we're always trying to scrutinize shooters' motives. Like the guy in Butler, Pennsylvania seems more like just your garden variety lunatic, unwell, just looking for something to do to make a big splash attention. Whereas this person might have more surface level discernible political motivations.
I think that's right. I was struck myself when he was first identified about how well practiced we've all become at these kind of situations. So as soon as the name came up, I went to social media before his profiles were going to be scrubbed to see what he was saying, you know. It was overwhelmingly about Ukraine, very emphatically pro-Ukraine, hardly even reaches the mark of the kind of views he was expressing. Some of them did seem honestly a bit eccentric, to say the least. He was suggesting on one occasion that President Biden should somehow give leave to all American members of the military so they could go as private citizens to fight on behalf of Ukraine. That isn't the view of a balanced person, but yes, I mean, it's clear that he did have some political views.
So some reactions to the attempted assassination. Obviously, Kamala Harris said that she was glad Trump is fine, and so did Joe Biden, and you know there's going to be more looked into it. There were a couple less kind, less good reactions. One was from Rachel Vindman, who's the wife of Alexander Vindman, who was a prominent figure in the Trump the first Trump impeachment. She tweeted, "No ears were harmed. Carry on with your Sunday afternoon." Not a very nice thing to say. And Adam Kinzinger, I noticed, said, look, a former Republican representative turned kind of fixture on CNN, anti-Trump person. He wrote on X, look, violent rhetoric is wrong and has no place, but MAGA pretending they didn't light this fire is gaslighting to the 100th power. Since Trump showed up, our politics has gone to crap, literally just accusing a group of people of eating our pets, et cetera. I think it's not good. Look, yes, there's a lot of heated rhetoric from Trump and on both sides and on all sides. But in this case, I think it's weird to, I'm sure MAGA people are going to say the heated rhetoric from Democrats or the media, whatever, contributes to that. And I'll push back on that when they say that, because I think heated rhetoric is very lazily attributed to being the cause of people committing violence. But it seems wrong here to say that, it's actually Trump's fault that someone targeted him for the crazy things he says.
I think there's a whole separate conversation to be had about the heated rhetoric and inflammatory rhetoric. I think we disagree in that I don't think it's symmetrical. I don't think the left does it as much as the right, or the people who do it on the left are these sort of media characters rather than former presidents of the United States. Having said that, the likes of the Vindman quote, I think, is just lacking in taste and basic decency. And the thing that overall frustrates me about these kinds of situations is people make arguments that they would never make if the political affiliations were reversed. If, and thankfully this did not happen, but if former President Obama were golfing and there was a guy with an AK-47 targeting him 2 holes ahead, nobody on the left would be making light of that, as they shouldn't, but when they do, it's Trump.
Absolutely, very good point. I did see some of those like Mueller, she wrote accounts,
Right.
very Dem partisan accounts, you know, flirting with, I don't even believe this happened, or inside job, or kind of thing. Just always a good reminder, it's not, media likes to print, it's only crazy thinking on the right. No, there's some crazy thinking in the pro-democratic category as well. All right, that's our first segment in our new studio. We got that one under our belts. Lots more rising to come. Please stay tuned.